Go. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper.io, and I'm here today with Alex Tarrand. Hopefully I got that right. The co-founder of STYNGR. Good afternoon, Alex.
Hey, how are you? It's great to chat with you, Mark.
Thanks. And did I get your last name correct?
You did. Yes, you did. Tarrand.
Tarrand. All right. Well, great to have you today. So to start with, can you give us a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Of course, I've been in video games for about 15 years throughout the Los Angeles area. At first for larger entities, so building out product management and BI teams and building out platforms for folks like Disney, Electronic Arts, Xbox, and then the NFL. And then built a couple of companies myself, mobile gaming companies, sold those, and have been working, been back in Los Angeles for just about a year and a half now, working on a couple of fun gaming platform projects.
Wow. So you've worked with some pretty big companies there and some pretty famous ones.
Yeah, been around, and it's interesting. You know, they're a combination. It's all over the map. Either they're full stack and everybody's sitting in house, or it's lean and mean and you're working with folks all around the globe.
Wow, very interesting. So what has been your experience with remote employment, both as an employee and an employer?
Oh, lots of it, lots of it. At the NFL, we had 72 developers sitting in India and would work with them managing a PMO. This was wild times. There you work on game days, so that includes doing Sundays in the office as well. And then we had remote workers across Canada too. So we were all working across a suite of apps and then doing commits in the same project. And that was wild. For my own projects, my startup projects, most of the development have been out of Eastern Europe, a combination of Minsk and Ukraine. And actually recently I lived half in California and half in Kiev. So I would travel and live 1 month in one area and 1 month in another area. So I was always a little jet lagged.
Wow, that's quite an experience. And with the NFL, when the people in India, were they working while the games were going? Is it standard product development?
24-hour development. So we would have people dispersed through parts of Canada, over in Saskatchewan, and then folks over in Bombay and Hyderabad, and then a small handful of on-site developers, mostly for triage, so that we could work 24 hours constantly on our applications. And we had a relationship worked out with the various platforms like Apple, where normally folks take 2 weeks to do a submission. Our submissions took about a half an hour to get pushed through somewhere.
Really? So you could actually, like during the course of a game, push through an update to your mobile app?
Did it on a very regular basis.
Wow. And so these are people in another country probably have no idea what they're pushing. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
coordinating the efforts on across so many groups committing so much code simultaneously is it's interesting.
So just out of curiosity, do you get to enjoy the games, or did you actually work the games?
You know, the games are on, they're in the background, you can see them. I don't know if enjoy is the right word. You mostly hold your breath until it's over.
Wow, and that is even not even talking about how well your team did.
Absolutely. If it's a game day and you're invested, oof, it's doubly hard.
That probably made Thanksgiving's a stressful day too, right?
Yes, absolutely. And even things that people write off, like the Pro Bowl, become a very big idea when you're responsible for a piece of the technology around it.
That's true. I never even thought of that one. Yeah, because most of the players don't even think about that one.
Yes, yeah, unless you're Jerry Rice or Deion Sanders, nobody cares.
Right. I don't even know. I think it's when do they have it now? I don't even know. Is it the week before? I think it's the week before the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I don't think they'll do it this year. I have a feeling it's not going to happen. But yeah, normally it's just before.
Yes, this is true. So and the question is, who will Tom Brady replace from the NFC side, since he doesn't? So what do you think is the future of remote employment, and what do you think can be done differently to make it more effective?
I think it's going to be the standard, at least for the IT space. COVID kind of accelerated that. It was an interesting arms race within the developer community and the startup community, where if you are a lean or a younger startup, or even in certain cases a mature startup, you're competing against folks who have campuses as their draw, not just the salary, not just the projects, but the campus where you have subsidized lunches and dinners and go-kart tracks and all this stuff. This got pretty serious out in Silicon Valley. But now I think people are finding more value in working remote. I think there's a good amount of studies that show productivity goes up. I find this in my own experience. And also I think, at least for millennials and Gen Z, it allows them to work on multiple projects concurrently. This is almost impossible in a working setting where you're in a physical office. So I have a suspicion it's going to expand out, and I think that's interesting because it opens up companies to a larger global talent pool, which I have found to be pretty beneficial.
No, I agree. I think a lot of the Eastern European countries especially are turning out really good computer science majors that know their stuff, and you know, it's kind of like where India was 20 years ago, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Ukraine in particular Kiev was like San Francisco. It's all techies who are incredibly good at what they do, and you go where the talent is, and you build good stuff.
Yep, and it's great to see. Competition helps everybody, right?
Absolutely.
So what is the story behind STYNGR? What is your product? Who do you market to? All these things. I've seen your website. It looks pretty cool.
STYNGR's a fun one. Kind of brainchild of my partner, Oleg Butenko. Oleg built what was the Spotify essentially of Russia, called VK Music, and has lived in that world, had like, 100 million monthly active users, huge service, and is very tied into the music community. So he and I have been talking about the project for about a year, and we really started digging into the architecture and beginning the development work just about a quarter ago. Oh. And we're just going to get our first big seed round come through, which is very exciting for us. This particular type of project is interesting because it's not just a tech play. An enormous amount of it is driven by relationships. What we're looking to do is kind of make popular music in gaming common. So coming out of folks, places like Electronic Arts, popular music is usually reserved for only a couple of titles. EA has over 200 games, maybe even more at this point, and they only license popular music for maybe 3 of them. It's only the sports suite. It's Madden, it's FIFA, and it's NBA, because there's consumer expectation. It's expensive, costs 7 figures, takes a long time. BD cycles are 6 months, maybe longer. And you don't make any money out of it. As a gaming company, it's a cost center to do that for your users. We want to flip that on its head and make it a profit center so that most of the music licensors and the game developers can make money off of getting popular music in games. And we have a revenue model that you can employ that's favorable for everybody and allows consumers to get the popular music they want. They can go and search for it like you would in a normal streaming service and import it into your game. And what we're finding is the fastest growing audience in games today is Gen Z by an order of magnitude. And Gen Z loves personalization. You look at TikTok. TikTok is driven almost exclusively by having popular music snippets that you can edit yourself into your content. We want to do this for gaming, allowing users to edit popular music and overlay it on top of meaningful moments in the game. And to do this, you have to navigate a very complex landscape between music publishers, master rights holders, and video game publishers. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. It's going to be a good product.
That sounds fascinating. I'm assuming you have a few lawyers on your staff.
Oh yeah, we got a couple of good guys that coming out of the East Coast. So that's half the offering, right? Our lengthy terms and conditions, they cover all the footwork for you.
Interesting. And you even handle things like the up and coming artists or the starving artists who, like I've been to Nashville, and some of those kids in Nashville are just so talented, but nobody knows about them. Do you like maybe give them an audience?
Absolutely. I mean, if audiences are creating themselves off social media, platforms like TikTok are surfacing artists and exposing them and bringing them to major labels. So if users know about them and players know about them and they want to search and surface them, it'll create more user-generated content around that offering. This is a big deal for everybody. It's good for artists. It's good for the game maker who gets that user-generated content. And if somebody wants to do an explicit or a unique music drop inside of a game, we're going to give them the ability to do that. And these worlds are colliding. Epic's been doing some amazing stuff. Travis Scott gave a concert to 12 million viewers in Fortnite.
Wow.
That's unheard of. And we're going to see more of this coming. It's going to be interesting.
Wow, interesting. And it's funny, I have a member of my family that was in the music industry, and she always said, it's not always the most talented people you hear, it's the best marketed people you hear.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the folks who resonate, the folks who have a message that speaks to that generation. The tricky part about licensing the coolest, most popular artist, if you're a big video game maker, is that they're always going to be a year old. You're going to start the work a year ago, you'll put it in the game, and you have last year's hits. And we don't want to do that. We want to make it so that if somebody amazing hit the shelves and came out and is on the airwaves a week ago, and you want that person in your game, you can do it. Snap of a finger.
Wow, I might take up gaming now.
Oh man, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
I started on Pac-Man and I never progressed past that.
Oh, I love Pac-Man, man. Classical gaming, this is right up my alley.
And what was the other one? Space Invaders. Those were the two big ones.
Oh, so good. So good. I've sunk a lot of good quarters into both of these.
I had those quarters back. So you're a fairly new company. So are you, and you're obviously remote, right? Did you start it during the pandemic?
We did. The idea has been kicking around for a year, but we kicked off during the pandemic. I also do some work for a holding company looking at new ventures that they're looking in. And it's been interesting because initially the venture scene was relatively dry at the beginning of the pandemic because nobody knew what was going on. So the capital, everybody was holding on to the capital. This is not the case anymore. I think there's a lot of capital going around. There's a lot of really amazing digital stuff that's getting funded. And I think come Q2 through Q4 of next year, you're going to see some really fun, wild stuff hitting the digital market because all those folks are getting off the ground right now from this new venture explosion. So it's actually going to be a good time for innovation.
Yeah, and you actually are getting into it at a good time too, because it would seem to me the pandemic has increased video or gaming in general, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, video games are always usually pretty resistant, but particularly now, gaming's gone through the roof. But our audience, our Gen Z audience, they were acclimated to this anyway. I mean, they have social lives that live online that are meaningful to them. So this is, I think they were able to adapt to this better than some of the rest of us, for sure.
I would think so, yes. This is interesting. So the pandemic, it caused everyone to go remote. You actually went live, before that, but I'm assuming you were planning the company before everyone went remote. Did that cause any challenges or roadblocks that you didn't expect?
No, not at all. I mean, I've been used to working with remote dev teams for quite some time. And the trick is to get a really good, strong lead that you trust on the other side and set a regular meeting cadence. That's critical. Now it's all remote, but I was a big fan of having remote teams and seeing them, going out there and seeing them, or having your lead come and see you once a quarter, so that the real face-to-face is almost irreplaceable.
Right.
I think we're doing a good job with it now in COVID, but nothing beats being able to dig into the minutia yourself and shaking hands with a team and building a rapport. So even if you have a remote team, I think making the time to at least go and meet them and do some sort of sync at a cadence is important.
I agree. I actually had a team in Chennai, India, and
oh, great.
They just appreciated it that I came to visit them on occasion, right? And I'm sure the same with Hyderabad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's good to get the FaceTime.
And then I would bring the leads here too, because they also appreciated coming to San Francisco to see what and just see what the office is like, and then go back and tell everybody. And it just brought a little more cohesion to the whole group.
Yeah, it's nice, and morale makes sense. I mean, whether it's a remote team or an on-site team, morale is always going to be an issue.
Right.
And it's always something you need to think about and make sure that you bolster. And having that FaceTime, even if it's a virtual FaceTime with an actual, your face looking at their face, it's one of the, there's no substitute,
Yeah.
simply no substitute.
I'm assuming you, like me, when everyone went to Zoom in March, it was like, okay, no big deal. I've been doing it for years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's fine. I just, have to make sure the lighting is okay and
Yeah,
the
right.
backdrop is okay. But yeah, it's all right.
Interesting. I don't know if you felt the same way. I felt like I was technical support for Zoom with some of my different groups I was part of. Because I was used to it.
Yeah, some of the technology is scaling well, some of it isn't.
Mhm.
And yeah, I feel like everybody now is in this digital lifestyle together.
Yeah. Remember back in March, we were like, oh my God, how did you change your background? That is so cool. And it's like, no, everybody's doing it now. I mean, you've actually got a fan going on in the background in yours. How'd you do that?
It's very cool. It's very cool.
So last question is, there's companies like Gaper that help develop, build, and scale products, especially for startups. How important do you think that is going forward for companies like yourself and other companies that need to hire the right talent and they need to hire them in a hurry?
For me, I always prefer to buy versus build if it's a piece of technology that's outside of our core competency.
Mm-hmm.
Our core competency is going to focus on music and gaming. If there's a third party company that can solve a need at a platform level that takes away months of distraction and ownership and maintenance on
Mm-hmm.
top of what it is that we're trying to do and the service we're trying to provide, absolutely. And what's nice about that too is that third party usually helps provide best practices and can help you get going from the start. So I am a big firm believer of doing what you do best and then let the experts come in and help you with the rest.
Yeah, and I'm actually thinking business is going more and more that way now, and COVID expedited. But I think it's more like the fabricated house, the prefab house. Oh, we need this and we need this.
Of course.
Put them all together, and that's what people are doing. They're putting it all together, and software as a service really was the beginning of that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and almost everything's SaaS now. I would think there's very little on-prem software anymore. There's not much that I know of.
Of course, try to find a tech platform that does not have some backdoor into Amazon, some Amazon service. It's unlikely.
Yes, very unlikely. Well, Alex, it was great talking to you today. You have a wealth of knowledge and a very varied background. So I want to thank you for your time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Mark. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah, same here. Have a great night.
Cheer, you as well. Bye.